Solid in bump right there. Hello and welcome to Access Sportsnet Lakers. I'm your host, Chris McGee. Joining me, it's our Laker insider, Mike President. And from the athletic, the very athletic, Bill Oram. And Allie Clifton will be joining us later in the show to make things better. Bill, hi.
Hey,
how's summer?
It's been great. I've been doing athletic things.
Have you? No, you haven't.
You look very athletic.
My athleticism has been on display.
Just at the keyboard? Refresh?
All over.
Yeah.
All over the globe.
Yeah, having a good time?
Had a great summer.
Free agency is upon us, and it's been a lot of fun.
Thank you.
You love it. Let's get right to it because we're going to start things off, Bill and Mike, with LeBron James. He took Twitter to shout out the haters, and I know I can speak for everyone in this room. We love it when he does. Here's what he posted, and then deleted. Keep talking about my squad, our personal ages.
I mean, their personnel ages, too.
Yes. The way he plays, stays injured. Past our time in this league, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Do me one favor, please, and I mean please. Keep that same narrative, energy, when it begins. That's all I ask. This reminds me of Washed King a couple years ago, and as we've seen with all the greatest ever in their sports, the guys that are, at the top of the Mount Rushmore, football, baseball, basketball, whatever, they do whatever they need to do to get motivation. Perez, what do you think he's referring to? What do you think he's getting at here?
He probably sees the Twitter chat, the fact that the Lakers are maybe a little long in the tooth. They got, at least a half dozen guys over the age of 32. It's not a young team. Although I do love the moves they made on Tuesday, day 2 of free agency. Really brought the average age of the team down when you re-signed THT, add Malik Monk and Kendrick Nunn. But it's pretty evident that LeBron is hearing. Maybe he gets a few texts from some other NBA players. Who really knows who his sources are, but he's definitely hearing that the Lakers are too old to accomplish anything.
Did you delete a tweet while he was talking?
I did not. I did delete a tweet the other day, though, because I accidentally called Lakers Summer League roster edition Trevelin Queen, Travelin Queen.
Okay.
And I still think it's a great name, but I did want to correct the record. Trevelin, not Travelin. But I deleted that tweet.
Keep that energy during the season.
Same narrative energy.
That same narrative energy.
Reminds me of journalism school. Like, keep the narrative energy up here.
Those athletic fingers. You got to delete, whatever you got.
Does this remind you of a Wash King? What do you think LeBron's feeling here?
It did feel a little bit like LeBron, setting the stage for what he's going to use to sort of disprove the haters this season. But listen, I mean, the criticism of no roster is perfect, no offseason is perfect. When you only have minimum contracts and the mid-level exception to really improve your team, you aren't going to be able to get every guy that would be at the top of your wish list. There are compromises, there are sacrifices, and in this case, you go a little higher on the age scale to get a little bit more achievement and accomplishment and talent, and that's sort of the trade-off. So LeBron, we will talk about your team being older because your team is older. It doesn't mean that it can't be successful, but that is part of the backdrop of this season that we're going into.
And by the way, don't you read NBA Twitter? Every player is going to play for the Lakers.
It's true. I mean, listen, the Photoshops are already done.
Let me ask you this.
I mean, half of them had already played for the Lakers, so we didn't need Photoshops, but the other half, the Photoshops are already done.
Perez has already answered this question, so we're going to ask you. As these signings were unfolding, what were your thoughts?
I mean, that they were old.
Okay.
The very first thought I had was every guy who was coming in. I was just looking at. I was born in the Reagan administration.
That's old.
Has clear memories of the first Bush administration. That's old too. This is how I was thinking of the roster pickups.
We call that the Showtime era. That's the Reagan administration.
That's fine. That's fine. Yeah. They were taking their kids to Magic's games at the Forum. No, I mean that was my first thought. Was this is going to be a lot older team, a lot more accomplished team in terms of what they've done over the course of their careers. But with that comes experience and credibility with the stars who are already in place and guys who are not going to have a super high learning curve. So my first thought was, if this team is healthy, I really like these moves. And that's kind of the margin the Lakers are going to be on all year.
What about day 2? As Perez turned his thoughts around on day 2, because we got younger.
I mean, listen, I like the offseason in total as it is. Like, I like getting the shooters on day 1. I like that you had guys who have some defensive tenacity and have track record of being good perimeter defenders. And then on day 2, I like that they got them some guys who can go in and get buckets and can score. I mean, Kendrick Nunn, Malik Monk. Carmelo Anthony. These are guys who can score at a really high level, and that's something the Lakers have missed off their bench in the last couple of years. And I'll even say this, because the one thing I don't like about the offseason is the exit of Alex Caruso. I would have liked to have seen the Lakers try harder to get to where they were.
I think a lot of fans would agree with you.
But what I will say is one of the drawbacks to Alex Caruso was that he wasn't a guy who could get you buckets, right? And that was a problem with the Lakers bench last year outside of Montrezl Harrell. I like that this year they're going to have guys coming off the bench who can score.
Brez, is this a finished product or is there something else out there?
That I think we want to take a long look at.
Is it safe to say, like, these moves are all collaborative, right? I mean, LeBron James is involved. These are guys that he wants here. He's confident with this group.
Absolutely. I mean, that's something Rob Pelinka has never been shy about saying. I mean, as soon as LeBron got here, he was talking about, being on the phone with LeBron to talk about the direction of the roster and getting his blessing. So LeBron, Anthony Davis, and I would even go so far as to say probably Russell Westbrook too. Russell Westbrook, I think at this stage of his career I don't put him in the same tier of star as LeBron and Anthony Davis, just given where he is. But I do think that the Lakers are bringing him in also as a partner, and that's how Rob Pelinka looks at this.
You agree with that, Press?
I do. I mean, LeBron James loves playing with veteran players. Always has, always will. A lot of vets on these teams for sure. And you can see what they did on that day one by adding the veteranism, as our friend Robert Horry would say, bringing back Dwight, and you get three shooters. Defenders, a couple of them. Wayne Ellington, not so sure about that, but Ariz is back here for another tour. Kent Bazemore. LeBron just more comfortable around guys who have been around the league more than a few years, period.
All right, guys, the Lakers' depth, as we have talked about with all these signings. You look at the guards, Westbrook, Malik Monk, Kendrick Nunn, Wayne Ellington, Bazemore, THT. I mean, that's 6 guys right there vying for the 4 playing time spots. I mean, obviously, Frank, he's not afraid to play 10 or 11 on a given night to keep everyone happy, but sometimes you got to tighten it up. Small forwards there. You got LeBron James and Trevor Ariza. You could also put LeBron James in the guard spot, couldn't you? Power forwards, Anthony Davis, Carmelo Anthony. Centers, Marc Gasol, Dwight Howard. Throw Anthony Davis in there as well, so they're kind of loaded at every position. Brez, top takeaways from the Lakers' moves in free agency. Give me number one.
Yeah, I think number one, they finally got some shooters. That was a big, I guess call it critique that people had of the Russell Westbrook trade last week. He's not a shooter. And he shot, 31% from three-point range last season. That's right around his career mark. You got to fill in that roster with shooters, and they did. 7 new guys, not including THT among the 8 signings they made. 7 new guys. One's a center. Throw out Dwight Howard. So of the 6 guys, 5 of them shot very well from three-point range last season. What is that? 38% or higher. So they definitely added some shooters. I'm not going to say they're all great defenders. I think a couple of them are definitely just going to be out there to make shots from that corner 3 spot, but they did indeed get their marksman.
Yeah, over 38%, and when you hit 40%, you're elite.
Big deal.
All right, let's get you to Bill Orm's first one.
Well, guys, I'm a fan of Broadway musicals. If you've ever seen Rent, you know that the credo of that show is no day but today.
Yeah.
And that is how I look at this roster. This is a no day but today, no season but this season roster. The Lakers are all in on 2021-2022.
Broadway Billy, we call you.
Please do. I like the sound of that. I'm going to get out my tap
Broadway
shoes.
Birdie.
And I do. I just think that this is a team that they will deal with the future after this season, or off season to off season. This is a team that has tons of guys on 1-year deals, guys who might have opportunities beyond this season, guys who may not be playing much longer after this season. But this team is built to contend for this moment right now. I kind of looked at it, and I wrote this in a story today at The Athletic, but it sort of feels like a heist film. If you remember Ocean's 11, where Danny Ocean gets like the old gang back together for one last job. Yeah, that's how this feels. And listen, we saw in the playoffs as the league is getting the young stars of this league are ready to take over.
Although that turned into 1 job, 2 jobs, and there's a
it was like Ocean's
because the first job went so well.
So
maybe it does. But the stars of tomorrow are ready to take over the league, and this feels like the granddads holding on for one last go.
So Brez, everyone's talking age, but your number 2 is about the youth.
They did add some youth. Okay, again, after that day 1, the average age of the 4 guys that they signed was 34 years old. Day 2 of free agency, the 4 guys they signed, average age 26 and a half. That includes Carmelo, who's 37. So I love bringing back THT for 3 years, and I thought a pretty good deal for the Lakers, $32 million. Adding that guy right there, Kendrick Nunn, seriously underrated signing for the Lakers. And Malik Monk, he was really good in the middle of last season. The Hornets had some injuries in their backcourt. He stepped up, started to discover his three-point game. It was his fourth season in the NBA. He was the 11th pick in the draft, had not lived up to those expectations. Thus, he falls into the Lakers' laps. Some good young players on that second day of free agency. Will it be enough, though? Still an older team.
Speaking of musicals.
Yes.
Rodgers and Hammerstein had one called Carousel.
Yeah.
And this was a big carousel in terms of the Lakers
just going
roster.
around?
Yeah.
Okay.
But no, my takeaway, sorry. How am I going to make this about a musical? Rodgers and Hammerstein, Carousel. Oh, that's it. So many new guys.
Yeah.
So many new pieces. So little continuity beyond LeBron and Anthony Davis.
Yeah.
Dwight is back. THT obviously poised for a bigger role. But making all those pieces fit is a risk. It is a challenge. And to me, that says the Lakers have a ton of faith in their leadership on the court, LeBron James, to get all these guys on the same page from day one. It speaks to the trust this team has in LeBron as a leader and as a unifier, and in the guys they brought in to understand kind of the mission immediately. So I look at it as a trust move for LeBron.
I got to tell you, Bill, you get alerts. Just popped up on the phone, said the Athletics got a little new spot for you. You'll be writing about Broadway.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
Section.
Theaters are going to start opening up again soon. We're going to get the stars back on the stage.
I see it in your face.
I mean, it's called a.
It's been a minute. Lots of things have happened.
I mean, it felt like it all happened in a minute.
Yeah, right? I want your thoughts on Russell Westbrook. The news.
It caught me off guard because it's such a big move, right? And it so dramatically changes what the Lakers are, how they play, what they look like, how we think of their roster construction. But we've had a week to sit on it and think about it, and I've talked myself into it, and I like it. I like the idea of LeBron James having another alpha, high IQ star. I think obviously Russell Westbrook is not necessarily the same player he was earlier in his career in Oklahoma City when he was the MVP. But I do think that there's a real opportunity here for the Lakers to become a very dynamic, out in the open floor team. I think they did a good job of accounting for Russ's deficiencies in free agency. So I'm cautiously optimistic about what this could look like. And if healthy, I think Russ does take the Lakers to another level.
Russ, when it comes to this whole move, we've talked about it a lot over the last several days, but I feel like talking myself into it is something you hear a lot of people say, not because of the kind of player Russ is, but because of what's coming together as one, alongside a LeBron James and Anthony Davis, the fit.
Yeah, no doubt. Eager to see it on the floor. It's fun to speculate about it, what's it going to look like. But until we see maybe a couple preseason games, and of course, when the real games begin, that's when we'll get a feeling after a month or two. Phil Jackson always said by Thanksgiving he had a pretty good idea of what his team's going to look like. So I like the move. I think a big thing is making sure LeBron gets some rest. Doesn't have to be the primary ball handler game after game after game. Does it address the shooting woes? Bradley Beal would have helped that a little bit better. Damian Lillard obviously would have helped that a little bit more than Russ. But by himself, still a big plus for the Lakers. Great rebounder. Feisty defender, still not what he was several years ago, but still, you got to account for him on defense.
But we're also talking about players the Lakers could realistically get also.
100%.
And Russell Westbrook doesn't check those same boxes, but he is he's a future Hall of Famer. He's somebody LeBron James is going to respect on the floor. Yeah. And I think that is a really big deal. And when you're talking about LeBron going to be 37 this season, you're pushing all your chips in. You're trying to get this across the finish line this year. There is no 2 or 3 year championship window. Maybe there may be, but all you really have is this year. And so that's where the Lakers are coming from with this move.
Sure.
There's some risk associated with it due to age, due to fit, the way Russ plays. Again, we need to see it. But it is a sign that you are going for broke.
I give Pelinka and the Laker front office a lot of credit. They win the championship a year ago. Do they say, all right, we're going to run it back? No, they trade Danny Green and pick up Dennis Schroeder. It didn't work out, mainly because of AD's injury. They lose in the first round. So Rob is not going to stand pat. He's going to push in, to steal your phrase, push in some more chips.
That's not mine. It's actually a cliche that I shouldn't have used. But if you want to use it and be the last one to use that terrible cliche, you can.
Yeah. He pushed in his chits. How about that? And obviously trying to give the Lakers a new look going into this upcoming season.
You guys kind of both just touched on it, but I think it's safe to say that probably for the first time in Russ's career, he's not the number 1 or number 2 outright option.
Right.
When it comes to Russ, what tells you that he can make this work?
I don't know. I think that's something we need to see. It's going to be a level of sacrifice that he hasn't made before in his career, and he hasn't had to make. But what's interesting about Russell Westbrook, and I was talking about this on my podcast today with Jovan Buha and Anthony Slater, the Forum Club, available to be downloaded anywhere, with Russell Westbrook, you want him to be Russell Westbrook. And if he's not being, the ultra-aggressive, high-usage, ball in his hands Russell Westbrook, then there's really no point in having Russell Westbrook. Because that's what he is, and that's what has made him great to this point. And so making that fit with LeBron, who is obviously the same way, and Anthony Davis, who can play off of different kinds of players, but there's going to be an adjustment, I think, for everyone. But I think you want Russell Westbrook to be the best version of himself, and that's going to be, taking a lot of shots with the ball in his hands.
Yes.
And we just need to see how it all fits. And so, do I think he can be that third star? Yes. But we haven't seen it before, so that the onus is now on him and the coaching staff to put him in spots to figure that out.
It was really cool when the Lakers played Oklahoma City several years ago, and Kobe recognized how good this team's going to be when they had Durant and Westbrook. Serge Ibaka was a big key player. Nick Collison, can't forget him. And I remember Kobe saying, this kid's going to be something special someday. And now Russ is obviously closer to the end of his career. And he's in a special situation. He's back home in Los Angeles, as we've talked about on our shows plenty. He's in a very winning situation. That hasn't been the case the last several years. He kind of was the one guy left in OKC after everyone else left. Washington, decent team, not great. No championship aspirations there. Houston, interesting mix with Harden. Obviously did not work. He's in a really good spot, so I'm expecting the best Russell Westbrook.
We don't know what it's going to look like between the lines just yet, but I will say that it has brought the energy into the studio because you guys are on fire just talking about him. Switching gears a moment before we go to break. Bill, you just had an article out talking about the head of the ship, Frank Vogel, the questions that still remain surrounding him.
Well, so when he came to the Lakers in 2019, it was on a 3-year contract. And so he would be entering the 3rd year of that contract, which is just interesting to think about when you're talking about all the changes this roster has undergone and the idea of Frank Vogel having the challenges of integrating these new pieces. Obviously, coaching LeBron James is already the most pressure-packed job in the NBA. Imagine doing it without job security beyond this season as a lame duck. Now, the Lakers have a couple of months to figure this out, and it makes sense. Take care of the roster first and then address Frank Vogel's contract. But I'm curious to see when that happens, what that looks like. I really have a hard time seeing them letting him get into this season without some job security beyond this year. But now that they have a roster in place and now that you know what this team is going to look like, that is sort of the last issue hanging over this Lakers team.
Got to give him a lot of credit. First year, wins a championship. Second year, tons of injuries starting in February. LeBron goes down, or AD goes down, then LeBron. He still kept the defense going. How this team was #1 in defensive rating, that's a big testimony to Frank Vogel. So whatever he and the Lakers figure out, I'm with you, Bill. Some job security beyond this one upcoming season would be sensible, probably for both sides. We'll have to see what happens.
You guys are.
We accomplish number 18.
All right, we've seen the moves that the Lakers have made, but one thing we have not seen, what's going on with Dennis? Just kind of quiet there. The reports say he's talking with the Celtics. What are you hearing, Brez?
Well, the thing about Dennis, if indeed he did decline a 4-year, $84 million deal, I believe The Athletic was first to report that. Good job, Bill. That was several months ago. But if he indeed declined it, he's not going to get that right now. There's just not enough teams with cap space who can afford paying that out to Schroeder. I thought he had a great regular season with the Lakers, stumbled in the playoffs. I think we're all in tune with that. I don't know where he's going to land. I mean, I guess there's still a chance he can come back to the Lakers if he swallows his pride, if both sides kind of say, hey, do you want to be a backup for us? You're not going to be making anywhere near 21 mil. But, it's not quite official that he's done with the Lakers.
Come join our 6 other guards.
Right. I think I was kind of keeping an eye on it with the Lakers after Caruso walked wondering if maybe that signaled a willingness to bring back Schroeder on a team-friendly sort of short-term deal as a sixth man again. But that, I think that is flown with the arrival of Kendrick Nunn and Malik Monk. You just have to look at the extension decline as one of the worst possible decisions that we've seen in the league. Yeah. I mean, this is a guy who might have to sign for a mid-level exception for 1 year somewhere, try to restore his image and get another deal. But you look at it was always going to be a point guard saturated market. There weren't a ton of teams with cap space, and I just think he really overestimated the Lakers' desire to bring him back. And we saw that pretty quickly with them being willing to include him in that those talks for Kyle Lowry at the trade deadline, a deal probably should have made in hindsight. But the fact Dennis Schroeder just a couple of bad breaks, obviously ended up in the COVID protocols twice this season, missed 10 days right before the start of the playoffs. Right. Yeah. And he just wasn't himself after he came back from that second time in the protocols. Yeah, I think he was scoreless in Game 5 in Phoenix. Yeah. And that, to me, just kind of signaled the end of this partnership.
Yeah, he was 0 for 9 in that game, if I remember correctly.
For 0 points.
Yeah, exactly. Possible destinations, Dallas, Memphis, they still have some cap space. He'd have to be a backup because both those teams have pretty good young point guards in Ja Morant and, of course, a guy named Luka Doncic.
Well, I think we just have to say, like, he came here to be a starting point guard.
It was 84.
It was 4 years, $84 million.
Yeah.
And he wanted closer to 100.
And right now he wanted 100. He could be looking at
5.5.
Wow. That's hard. From a guy with an uncertain future to a guy with a bright future, how happy are the Lakers, Bill, to keep THT?
I mean, I love the deal on THT. Like, I was concerned that another team was going to come in and push it much higher into the teens and make the Lakers make a really difficult choice, because I think
everyone thought that,
and I think they would have had to have matched that too, because they don't have any other assets for the future. Like, they don't have anybody that they could potentially use in a trade if they needed to change course or improve the team. They don't have anybody that they can look to as a piece of the future. Keeping Talen Horton-Tucker, to me, was absolutely vital, almost at any number. Yeah. And getting him for $11 million, yes. It's a deal that, if it has a player option in year 3, so he could be a free agent at 23 years old, but, they could do this again. They can sort of renegotiate in 2 years if he has sort of lived up to the potential that everyone sees in him. Like, obviously, there's a super strong relationship between his agent, Rich Paul, and Rob Pelinka. This was just a case of those sides coming together. They didn't lock him up for so long that THT isn't going to get his eventually. But this is a really good value for him right now. I think he's going to have a big role on this team. I liked the deal for both sides.
Bill, you already mentioned Caruso earlier in the show, and the Lakers had to make a decision. Which one is coming back? And they're both...
I don't think that's true, but I will entertain your point.
Well, sure. I mean, they both signed for about the same money. Caruso making about $9.5 million, and THT almost $11 million. And so the fact that THT is back, that's the guy that I would have preferred. The preferred candidate in my mind of those two would be this guy. I mean, you see the numbers there, just everything really blossoming for him after the All-Star break. Obviously, some injuries kind of paved the way for him to get more minutes than anyone would have thought, but a very good number. When you keep in mind that the average salary in the NBA is $9.5 million, they're getting him for, I think it's 10.7 on average if he does stay the whole 3 years. That's a great number for a guy with, let's be honest, more upside potential, especially on offense, than Caruso.
20.
Yeah.
20 years old.
It's a really unique situation because you usually don't see guys who have this kind of value, hit free agency at that age.
Yeah, they're usually locked in for 4 years.
Right, so you're under team control for like 7 years as a first-round draft pick. So, I mean, the fact that he hit the market and had the opportunity to go, get really competitive offers from other teams, didn't really seem to do that. He let kind of things play out here, and then he and the Lakers worked something smart out.
All right. For more on Talen Horton-Tucker, let's check in with our good friend Allie.
Yeah, we're going to keep talking about him because
8,000 points and 8,000 career assists, and the Lakers will have 2 of them on their roster in LeBron James and Russell Westbrook. The only other players to accomplish this rare feat are the Big O, Oscar Robertson, and the glove, Gary Payton. This is a Russ 5-piece. Are you guys ready for this? This is where we get spicy.
I'm ready.
All right.
Spicy.
Let's go. The Brody is headed home. Let's do this. Oh, taking off Bill. Oh, actually, no, you don't get this one. Brez picked them to win. He picked Giannis as the MVP. You mocked him.
That's true. That is
Brez,
true. I did mock him.
Take this.
Yeah, I took a little bit of a gamble doing that. I realize that, but we're showing him dunking on the Bucks. The guys that I picked. No, I mean,
you didn't pick Thon Maker to win finals.
I was trying to think of his name. I'm like, wait, who is that guy again? He hasn't been around in a while. Yeah, this guy can obviously elevate when necessary.
OKC Russ was a different problem.
Send him to meet his maker.
Oh, but look at this Russ.
I'll tell you what. I like all these Russes because they look the same. They are thunderous. They are violent, and that is
a good word.
That is a thunderous.
No, just he dunks violent.
He is violent.
I just saw Steven Adams working out today at a gym in Glendale. Yeah,
17 kids in the family.
Did you say hello?
I did not.
Wow,
he looked busy.
Tell him I say hi next time.
Are you friends?
Yeah,
Sister's a
cross paths
big-time Olympian.
Cool.
Gold medalist, I believe.
Oh, really? Is she shot tonight? Oh, shot put.
Mm-hmm.
No kidding.
He set a nice screen anyway.
Really?
That play.
Something like that.
Good stuff.
And this cancer act.
I mean, he likes to get downhill and just throw down spicy.
Yeah,
I mean, this is what he does.
What I like about what we're doing here is we're showing the variety in Russell Westbrook's game. Like, he's not a one-dimensional player, obviously, but I like that we're seeing like kind of some of the different things he can do. For example, he can dunk on guys from the Bucks. He can dunk on guys from the who was the other
Warriors?
team?
The Pelicans?
The Pelicans is the one I couldn't remember.
Oh, and
what's this?
Another
dunk.
Gosh, my goodness.
Yes, sir.
the Knicks.
I feel like he's like a hologram just being superimposed on different defenses. It's like almost like a birthday greeting where it's like you could pay $25 to see Russell Westbrook dunking on your grandma.
I don't
I
don't think I recognize many of those Knicks right there. There's Tilakina, I think.
Mo Harkless.
Mo Harkless, thank you. Was that Mitchell Robinson?
Prince.
Okay. Is he back with them, Bill? I think he is, right? Bill? Mitchell Robinson?
Oh, yeah, he's there.
He's back. Right?
All right.
One more dunk. Hold on. That is the
best
best
or
one.
last?
That is the best one.
That's Wizards Westbrook.
yeah, that's not.
It's still in there.
That's Russell Westbrook from within the last 10 months. Because he was playing in Houston a year
Yeah.
ago.
Bismack,
Okay, guys, now I've seen something.
Bismack Biyombo is a pretty good shot
He's
blocker,
tall.
but not on this play. He had no chance, dude.
Well,
Hayward's
Bismack
just,
got caught on the old goal there and just wasn't ready to elevate
kind of got shut down.
and dictate.
Eastbrook was still had it.
Wow.
Okay.
Strong
AJ,
ducks.
nothing but a number for the Lakers next season, right?
Big number.
Numbers is.
What is they?
Page.
Just practice.
Always
Ain't nothing but a number for the Lakers this season. What do you say to that, Brez? What the numbers is?
That's a 10. I mean, you think of LeBron James, the guy loves being around veteran players. He's very comfortable around guys who have been around the block a few times in this league. So he certainly doesn't care about it. Did you happen to see the tweets that he deleted and then posted again and then deleted again? Yeah, there was some activity on his Twitter feed. And yeah, I'm not worried about the Lakers' age. Again, since they did have a very young day 2 of free agency, Bill.
Yeah, I'm not as sold on this.
What the
guys.
numbers is
It's
then,
a
Bill?
5. It's a 5 because it's a complete crapshoot when you're talking about age and veteran players and injuries and players wearing down. It's not just in the control of the players. It's not just in control of the team. Sometimes fate intervenes. And so if there is an ill-timed injury, let's say, or a player's decline is a little more precipitous, here's a number for you: 86. The Lakers will be 86th from the playoffs without even seeing their team in the finals.
86.
That's it.
Do we have any show tunes to accompany that?
All right,
saving
Brez, what
that
the
for the
numbers
end.
is? Trying to get through these, Bill.
Yeah.
Surprised the Lakers didn't pay to keep Caruso?
I'm going to do like a 4 on this. I think that they had their mind on the bigger picture. And Caruso, great defender, totally fit in Frank Vogel's defensive-minded scheme. It hurts to lose him, love him, but not a potent scorer. 6 points a game, I think he averaged this past season. So, you know, I'm not stunned. I'm about a 4 on the surprise scale, I guess. I do like them bringing THT back, which I said earlier. And of those two, that's what I would have taken. Don't hate me. Bald Mama.
Phil, you bringing it up? You bringing the number up? You surprised?
I'm going to slide it all the way up to a 9.
Wow.
Not all the way to a 10 because I am cognizant
Five
of the
spots
luxury
higher
tax.
than you, Brett.
Yeah,
But
there's
that's a
tax.
9.
Yeah.
I mean, this
You're
is a guy.
surprised?
Statistically, he was the best partner on the court with LeBron James. He pencils out as one of the best defensive guards in the NBA. And the Lakers do not have anyone on this team who replicates what he did in terms of hustle, 50-50 balls. He won the Lakers games last year just by knowing to be in the right spot, taking charges. Remember in Boston, the game that he won for the Lakers by getting back in transition against Jaylen Brown? I don't know who's doing that for this team. And in the playoffs especially, remember, he started Game 6 of the finals when the Lakers won the championship. I think they're going to miss Caruso. I think it is a mistake to let him go.